configuration steps needed to carry out or create the POSC and how it gets determined. So the POSC for inbound is determined from the warehouse process type. For outbound, it is determined from the warehouse order creation rule. So first and foremost is that you need to identify the steps which are performed in the warehouse, and depending upon the layout you will sequence them. And one thing to note is that certainly unloading cannot be the last step, or it has to be basically the first step, and put away cannot be in between. It has to be the last step, right? So logically, depending upon the business requirement, we have to sequence it, except the unloading has to be the of course first one, and put away has to be the last one. Then we can shift the quality or decon, interchange their place, or VAS, it can move up or down. Now depending upon how it happens in the warehouse, we should do it. Now it is very much possible that maybe you're receiving the product in your warehouse, and before it goes to decon, everything goes past through quality. So then you should move the step up, and the quality should be the first step, and decon should be the second step. Now it might also be possible that before it goes to quality, you want to segregate the product in terms of the one which goes to quality are put into the say one box, and the one which doesn't go there are put into a separate box, because you do not want to retain the inventory at the quality step if it is not relevant for quality, right? So, and also there is one more thing is that if you have activated the rule based checkbox, then if the HU has content which doesn't have any quality inspection lot or quality requirement, then it will skip the quality step and it will move on to the next step. And same goes for the VAS. If you activated the rule based checkbox, then if there is no VAS order created for any of the content which is within the handling unit, then it will skip the step and it will go on to the next step. We'll see the detail, but in general, the rule based checkbox is activated if you use a specific transaction code to determine the bins. Now, in case of staging and door determination, we have a common T code which has to be populated, and then we have to maintain the access sequence to give the priority based, like the what is the right selection criteria and what is the sequence. So it is not just that you will populate this particular transaction, it will start working. It is very important that you update the access sequence. So access sequence concept is common throughout the EWM, so I won't go into the detail, but we'll certainly look at it. Now for the deconsolidation station or work center, there is a in the config we can see the details basically based on your source, storage type, HU type group. HU type group is mandatory, and then activity area, destination activity area, you can determine the work center. So now if you're using the rule based activating the rule based checkbox for deconsolidation, then you need to assign the consolidation group to the bins which are in scope, or in the which are linked to the activity area where which you are considering for in your scope. Otherwise you will see that you're getting the error, consolidation group not found or something like that. Now for quality, and you will notice that when we'll jump to the configuration for putaway, which is the standard step is IB03, you won't find any source or destination detail maintained, because for the final step IB03, system will use the putaway strategies. In the good receipt config, we have the putaway strategies, which using which system will determine the right destination bin. Now, so once you have identified the step, the first thing you should do is to create or identify the storage type which you're going to use and create the bins. Now in the system, so this is a standard storage type provided by SAP. So this is the one which you are going to consider for to create the doors. So whenever the stock is available in the system, it is always a bin. So, and bin belongs to a storage type. So this is the storage type, and the storage type role has to be F. So these are the standard one. So you will find certainly these one also in your system as well. Now we have for the staging area for inbound, we are using the 9010 as a storage type. You can see the storage type role T. And the external step is pre-populated by standard. So we'll keep it as it is. Now, so wherever you have the work center, you will notice that the storage type role is, I think, E. And for VAS, quality and decon, even though the storage type number is changing, but you will see the property or the setup is almost same. So for the storage type is over here is E, which is for work center. And it will be same for the other storage type, which is quality. For quality, I have copied the deconsolidation storage type to create the storage type for quality inspection. And so the properties are same. And then I will be creating ultimately the bins under it. So once you have created the storage type, I would recommend that if you are starting to learn the POSC, create a spreadsheet, identify the storage type, identify the bin, and capture them in a spreadsheet just to make sure that you're not making any mistakes. Now, as far as the work center setup goes, it's a it's beyond POSC, but I'll just briefly touch upon that. Now, for the staging area, define the sections, because the sections are storage type for the staging areas created or represented as a staging area group, and then the sections are represented as staging area, and those are assigned, and for each storage section you will assign the bin. So if you happen to have 3 staging area, then you will create 3 sections, and then for each section you can create individual bin, so that the stock segregation is seen clearly in the warehouse monitor. And now, because you will also need the bins to assign in the staging area determination T code. Now for the work center, it is very important that you're creating the right work center. The important thing is the layout, because in the layout you have something called the transaction type, where you define what is the purpose of the work center, and then you can see the transaction type here. So depending upon the transaction type value, the work center will be appearing in the F4 list. If you have put it as a deconsolidation, then you will not be seeing the work center which are using the layout for VAS in the desktop version. So if you go to RFUI, all the work centers are displayed in the pack station option. So now, once you have defined the work center, there is another transaction code where you have to assign the bin. So we'll come to that screen later. So initially you have to define the storage type. Now I spoke about this section requirement for the staging area, and then you should define the door depending on the warehouse layout. So if you have 3 or 4 doors for inbound area, then you should define 3 to 4 doors for that. So when you're defining the door, you have to mark whether it is relevant for just for inbound or for both outbound as well. There is an action profile. So action profile contains the action, PPF action. If there is any specific action which needs to be triggered, then you can create a custom action definition and add it, or see whatever standard, if it makes sense. This is very important that you update the number ranges, because if you work with shipping and receiving component, which is TU, then you system will give error if there is no number range assigned over here. This is not a mandatory step. This is a default staging area group. If you will maintain it, it will be shown in the staging area determination transaction code. Now once you have defined the door, this is an optional step, I would say. In the material master, there is a field called staging area group, door determination group. If you create that, then if you want to use that, then you can create it, and based on that group you can determine the staging area and door. Otherwise you can leave it, or then you go to the staging area This is very important that you assign, make sure that you assign the door and staging area over here. So these are the section which are coming as staging area. This is the storage type which is coming as group, right? So if you have created multiple staging areas, if you happen to have that in your layout, then ensure that the relevant doors are mapped over there. Now, otherwise, if you don't do this, then in the staging area determination transaction code, you won't be able to assign the specific door to your staging area bay, and we will see that. So once you have done this particular step, which is needed for your unloading step, and assuming that you have already created the bins, now let's go to the process oriented storage control. See, you can notice that the very first option is external storage process step. So you can create your own external step, and internally system, you have to assign an internal process step. So with the value of this internal process step, so internal process step is using which system will understand what is the objective of this particular external step. So if you, because this can be any number, right? It can be alphanumeric number or whatever, but then using this system, they will really understand whether it is VAS or whether it is unloading, or so we'll stick to the standard for now. We define these step because if you want to reuse, let's say VAS multiple time, 5 times or whatever. Now IB01 is for unloading. So this is a descriptive information. The real thing is the internal process step. So, and you can see that system will default it. You can't modify it. For deconsolidate, this is the value, and for put away, this is the value. Right now, these are global. You don't have to define it for your warehouse. This will be in the standard. Now, the next step you should do is go to the storage process definition. Go to the warehouse. Copy anything which makes sense to you. First, do this irrespective of, don't focus on the number of steps or whatever steps are there. Just copy it, create. Direction should be put away. Now there is no counting which we are going to perform. We'll ignore it, and then depending upon your warehouse layout, you can shuffle the steps, up and down. Let's say there is no VAS step, then you copy it and you introduce the VAS step. So for your learning purpose, you can just follow the steps which I am performing here. Let's first save it and we'll copy it. You can do this. Now this cannot be your last step, right? Because the put away is the last step, so you have to move it up. Depending upon your layout, then you can position it using this particular button. You can move it up and down. Once you have saved it, now what is the purpose of this checkbox? So assuming first, in my scenario, first the unloading will happen, which is moving the product from your door to staging area. Then the quality inspection will occur, and then we will perform the value added service. Then we will deconsolidate before doing the put away. Now, I would think that in real time, the deconsolidation will happen much earlier but just to understand the flow, we can still go with this. It doesn't matter. This time, so we will talk about it. It's a separate topic, so I'm ignoring the time duration for POSC over here. So let's stick to now these checkbox, the auto creation of warehouse tasks. The purpose of doing this checkbox is that once this particular step is concluded, system will trigger the warehouse task for next one. So the checkbox which is marked is for basically creation of WT for next step, not for this particular individual step. And you can see that there is no checkbox over there. It's there, but it is not marked because there is no subsequent, there is no further step after put away, right? So it's only marked to trigger the warehouse task automatically. Now, what about this one? There is no pre-step or there is no checkbox to trigger the W warehouse task for this one, right? Which means that you need to have a PPF setup for creation of automatic creation of the warehouse task for the very first step, which is for unloading. Now it can be based on the event that delivery is created and goods movement is not started to not started. So yeah, so for this step you will need PPF, otherwise you need to create it manually. Now for even for the put away, so now okay, for the put away task, there is a checkbox in the WPT wherein when you access the put away transaction code on RF, system will generate the task automatically. But because we have the deconsolidation step involved here, the put away task has to be created before the deconsolidation step. Because why? Because if you are using the rule based checkbox, then system needs to decide or needs to get the information how many put away tasks are going to be there for the handling unit which is arriving at the deconsolidation station. Because if there is a field called max t, if the threshold is mentioned as 3 over there and there are 3 or 4 warehouse tasks in the HU put away task, then only system will route it, which means that the put away task needs to be created before it comes to the deconsolidation station. So if I mark this checkbox, which is the put away task, the product warehouse task creation, so it is saying that product WT should be created up to or with IB02, because to check compare with the threshold. So either it has to be created before it, and system doesn't gives any restriction. You can save it at the very beginning when the system is creating the unloading warehouse task. It will also create the product warehouse task, but it is too early in the game, so we will not do that. So probably in this scenario, we will mark VS01, or it can be still this one. Whatever makes sense, because we do not want to create the warehouse task product where WT way ahead in advance, because the situation in the warehouse can change in terms of the bins. Now this is the simple part, I would say, the adding the step. Now as I said, you can copy and create as many times you want, and you can keep on adding over here if that is the case. Or if you have a physically, there is this requirement that it's some sort of activity which is happening in the warehouse and you want to, SAP has not provided that and you want to capture it as a step because you want to route the HU, then you can use the VAS tab. The only catch, and it's quite a catch here, is that the pack spec maintenance is needed, because VAS order is needed. If there is no VAS order, system doesn't route it to the VAS station. If you're using the rule base, then if you do not want to uh, you know uh, use the rule base option, then system will always route it to the VAS step. But then without the VAS order, it doesn't make any sense to use this step. So now going, so this was the easy part. Like the in real time, it's POS is the main thing or the core thing in the warehouse. So it requires quite a bit of detailed discussion with the business to understand what works well, what is the right sequence, how should it happen. So but here we are going theoretical, so let's stick to that. Now let's go to the warehouse. So first step we said it is IB01, which is unloading. Although I have already have IB01 defined here, but let's do it. So this is how you have to define it, and in the standard also you will get this step. So if you have copied the standard step and created a Z1 or something like that, then you should mention what is the equivalent for unloading. Now the purpose of unloading step is to move the product from the door, because when you will do the good receipt, it will happen at the goods movement bin will be door bin. So you want to pick the product from door and bring it over to the staging area, right, as part of your complex unloading process. Now, if you're using TU, the TU can also be your goods movement bin, because there is a configuration wherein TU can be used as a goods movement bin. But instead of, and in that case, the TU won't be shown. The goods movement bin in the document will be blank if you're using TU for your GR. Now, let's say there is no TU involved here. It is just this door. So the purpose is that you want to bring the inventory from door to the staging area. Now, let's say there is a requirement that if it is coming from door and the stock is on the pallet, then so this is not the WPT which will be in your inbound delivery. These WPT are for just for the POSC step, internal process. So you can create, these are the standard 3070, 3060. So for the HU movement, this is just like creating a ad hoc warehouse task. We use 9999. So we use this movement type for the creation of this task. So may understand that the POS is not maintained within this WPT. POS is maintained in the WPT, which is determined in your delivery. In the inbound delivery, the WPT which is visible, the POS is maintained inside that. These are just for the warehouse task creation. So don't get confused between this WPT and the one which is in the delivery. So the one which you see in your delivery document, inbound delivery document, that is the WPT which you use, system will use for the final put away warehouse task creation. So that WPT will be coming into the picture in terms of warehouse task at the very end. But before the process, these are the WPT which we will use here. So the important thing is that if your pallet is, the business is saying if the stock is coming from door but it is on the pallet, then it should go to 9010 storage type, and this is the staging bay, right? Which means that if you're entering the data here, then you will not mark the checkbox. Now if business and then if business is saying if it is coming on the boxes, then it should go to a specific particular bin, then or storage type like 9015 and let's say 9010. So using the field HU type group, depending upon what kind of packaging the product is coming, what kind of packaging, you can route it to a different storage type or staging area using this setup, right? That is, so it is quite a crucial thing that you understand the usage of this field. Now it can be also possible that it's not pallet, it is always boxes, but there is certain type of box. So then that certain type of box will have a HU type, and you should create a new HU type group and assign that HU type to it, and then use this option as a lever to use get to a different destination. So once you will, so now in case you are not using rule based, mention the destination storage section if it is there in scope and destination bin. Now in my case, this step is already maintained. So if I'll try to maintain it, it will give me error. So I won't do it, or rather let me do it first, delete it and then create it. So you can see in this example that I mentioned the bin, and if you're maintaining the bin, then system will give you will not allow you to mark this checkbox. This checkbox is only allowed uh, if you are maintaining the bin, and also you're marking the checkbox. It is only allowed for the VAS and quality step. You can see, as you can see as an example here, because system is not using it as a rule based functionality. Rather, they have used this checkbox and repurpose it to create a situation or a logic that if there is no inspection lot, skip the POSC step for VAS and quality. So they have repurposed it. Instead, they could have given another checkbox. But anyways, this is the design. So apart from quality and VAS, the whenever we are marking the rule-based checkbox, then there is a specific option to maintain the bin over there to determine the bin. So we will see now. Now it comes to when it comes to IB01, the purpose is to get the product from door to the staging area. Now if you're marking this, then we will be using the staging area determination and door determination T code. Now note that for staging area and door, it is one single T code, right? We don't have separate door determination T code and separate staging area determination T code. It is one and simple single one. Now you will notice that in the setup, you will see that there are many times it is left as blank. Why it is left as blank? Because we are saying that doesn't matter where the stock is coming from. For the unloading step, always determine the destination using the rule based checkbox. So we are not creating a dependency that only when it comes from here then it should go here. Like if you see, we are putting a specific condition. If it is coming from this storage type and this is the HU type group, then it should be routed to GR zone. But if it is this one and this one, then use the rule based option to determine the staging area. Now it, because it can be even TU, right? So if TU is used for the instead of door, then this functionality will not result into, it will give the error, right? Because you have not, the goods movement bin is not the door bin. So we keep it blank, and you can see that in various steps you will notice that it has been left blank, because we are saying that doesn't matter where the product comes from, this is how you have to determine the destination. But if you know that this is the specific source where it is coming from, and then this should be the specific destination, then you should create it. It's not that you have to always enter the bin here. If you want to maintain a specific detail, you can still use the rule base, right, like we have used here. So now let's look at the staging area table, staging area and door determination table. So what I'm using here is a WPT, and the HU type is another option. So what I'm using here is, if this is the WPT, then this should be the staging area or the staging bay, and we can then maintain the bin door also over here. So system will determine this particular door in the example. So I've highlighted earlier the configuration. If you're not done the door staging area door determination, then it won't be, you won't be getting any values. So the example I'm going to show here is this one, wherein this is the door which is maintained for the staging area. Now you can use the material master staging area determination group as another factor. The important thing is that just by maintaining the data here, it won't work. You have to maintain the access sequence as well. So I'm saying that based on the WPT, determine the value, and then the next sequence, right, is given to the HU type. And this is the example. So you can see the door which is determined as this one, and this is the staging area which is getting determined in the delivery. As you can see, I have another couple of different values, but these are not determined by the system. The one which is system has determined is this one, right? So this is about the unloading step. Now once the unloading step is done, and we can see parallelly how it uh, works in the system. There is a PPF. I've highlighted that the very first Putaway or very first warehouse task, there is no checkbox to create it automatically, right? So you have to use the PPF to do this activity. To get the warehouse task created, you have to set up a PPF, which I have shown here. There is a separate video on this wherein you can see that the setup needed to activate the PPF. So this is the POSC which is maintained in the WPT, and you can see that this is not the WPT which is coming in the delivery, right? Inbound delivery, it is Z013 something. So it is important at the beginning. It creates quite a confusion that in which WPT you have to maintain the POC, because there are so many. It's a G010, sorry. So there are quite a bit of WPT involved. So this one is maintained in the POC, and this one is in your inbound delivery. This one will be used to create the putaway task at the last, but the POC is determined from the other one, not from this one. So this is a step, and system is saying that with the stock will be moved from this particular door to this staging area. So there is a transaction code wherein you will assign the door uh, with the bin. So the door has to be maintained for complex unloading. It is important that you maintain this value, and this is for docs scheduling appointment dash functionality. The loading point is populated over there, and for ASR also it is important, advanced shipping and receiving. But anyways, so it is important that we assign the bin here, because system will need a bin for this activity. So once this step is done, let's go to the next step, which is IB01 is done. Then so we will use the RF to receive it, and then we will see what happens next. So the next step which is triggered in my POC is quality. Now let's take a look at the before we go over there. So you can see the how the system is determining the source and destination. So QIS is the step. So this is the QIS, which is step we have defined. So what, and you can see two entries here, right? So it is like I said, so if you want to say, it doesn't matter wherever the stock is coming from, staging area, door bin, wherever to you, then it should, if quality step is there and quality inspection lot is generated, then divert it to this particular bin, and you can see the rule based checkbox is marked here. If you will mark over here, you will see that system will give error. If you, but here it is allowing it. The only exception is VAS and quality, because the system is saying that if there is no inspection lot, then skip it. So in this case, the inspection lot is generated, so system is displaying, system is routing it to this particular step. Now, so this is the second step in my sequence. The decon is quite a bit down in the process. Now let's go back here. So when you are defining your POSC, if you, like I said, if you do not want to create any specific restriction on the source, because wherever it comes from, it should always be going here, then you don't have to mention this detail. But even though I've mentioned the same bin, it could be a different bin altogether, right? I mean, so if it is coming from the staging area with this HU type group, if you happen to have two quality work center, let's say this HU type group represents pallet. So whenever you're receiving the product from pallet, it should be going to this work center. If it is coming from, let's say, not on pallet, it is on some other HU type group, let's say box, then it should go to another work center. It can be that you're using the pallet, the work center for pallets at the ground floor, the work center for the boxes is at the second floor. So using this, you can route it to a different storage bin, and then of course if there is a different floor, you can introduce LOSC in between if needed. Now let's process this one. So first we will bring the stock. So we have the handling unit here. Now the operator doesn't have to look at the warehouse monitor or to carry out this step. So they know the handling unit physically, they can see the handling unit, and if the warehouse order is connected assigned to a queue, they can go to the RFUI transaction code. Don't have to come here. I'm not going by the queue mechanism because there might be multiple warehouse order and I want to process a specific one. So once we will do that, we can do the quality inspection. First, we have to bring to the quality inspection area. Then we have to go to QA32, execute it. Hopefully the last one is ours, just created just now. So if your setup is correct, you will get this status. If your inspection plan is missing, then it will be CTRTD something created. Now click on usage decision. Here you can see that there is a follow-up action. So in the configuration, we have mapped this acceptance UD code to the follow-up action, and using this system will carry out the activity in EWM. So when we, this is a S4 transaction code, so when we are doing the UD over here, it will generate a queue, but it will, once we will carry based on the setup in EWM side, system will get to see whether the stock is moving to block stock, quality stock, or wherever, unrestricted stock or scrap stock. Based on that, system will send the information back to S4, and then S4 will take an action. So right now, even though we are doing UD, right away the status or the activity won't happen in the S4. It depends upon the EWM follow-up action, whatever is the action which will happen in EWM. Then based on that, system will act upon the stock in S4 side. Now we will see the warehouse task for the third step. So the third step is for VAS. You can see that these are in close C status. So the third step is for VAS. Now let's look at the setup for VAS here. So the step for VAS is the VAS 01. Okay, no, this is the one. So here also we are saying doesn't matter where the stock is coming from. And the same concept applies if you know that where exactly it is coming from, quality area and from work center, one, then it should go to this area and all that. You can certainly do not mention the work center here, but if you have different work center, you could have created different storage type for quality as well, right? So Now that is why we are saying that doesn't matter where it comes from, but whenever this step is happening, it should go to this works, determine this bin. And for quality and VAS, you will notice that we are always maintaining the bin here directly, because there is no separate T code wherein you will maintain the bin. Now when it will come to the next step for deconsolidation, we will see the option where can we maintain the different bin and determination of the work center. But as far as quality and this goes, we are always maintaining the bin over here. Now there is a transaction code where you can see the list of work center and in the storage type linked to them. So here you can see that for quality I have maintained this one, and for the work center this one. For VAS I've maintained the bin. If you do not, you can see that sometime it is kept blank. Why? Because we do not want to restrict our work center for a specific bin. Because if your storage type using which you're creating the work center, there are many bins, and the stock can be any of the bin, then you want to still be able to perform the work upon it. So that's why you're not restricting it and you keep it blank. But in our case, for VAS and quality, it is a specific value, so that's why we maintained it. So this is the storage type for VAS. Now let's look at the setup. So here you can see if this is the step, it is coming, the source system has determined the quality inspection area, and this is the destination bin, and this bin is mapped to a specific work center, so system will know which work center it has to use. Now again, the operator doesn't have to know the specific value, they can just process it. So I did not copy the HU. Now I copied the warehouse order. So this is the source, this is the destination. So we have confirmed that the stock has arrived at the VAS work center. And for the VAS POSC step, there has to be a VAS order created. It is very important. Now there is a issue in the setup, because you can see that there are two VAS related steps and there is a different work centers. Right now I've logged into a different work center. So the HU should have been, after this HU should move to this work center, but to carry out the next step in the VAS. But in my POSC, there is only VAS, one single VAS step. So the pack spec which is created is not correct. Either I should have had added the second VAS step, or so let's see if we do that, or there should have been just one step. Now we have to move it right after the other VAS step. So I have introduced the next step just to take care of the situation we are now. And it's important that once you introduce a step, you come to this transaction and maintain the source and destination. Otherwise, the warehouse tasks won't be created, and at the beginning, at many a times, this is the main issue why the warehouse task is not getting created. So VS02 step is already mentioned, and we have also mentioned that if doesn't matter where it comes from, and whatever is the HU type group, it should move for this step. This is a destination, and the TWRKST transaction code, you will see that this bin is mapped to the work center as well. So there is another entry that we have. So this is quite a weird entry. So let's check now what will happen to the HU. Let's refresh the data. I've closed the first step. Let's save it, and then we will close the HU. So to whenever you are working at the work center, to trigger the subsequent warehouse task for the next step or to the next place, then you have to select the handling unit. You can see the status of the overall status of the warehouse order. VAS order is coming as B, which is in progress. This one is still open and this one is closed. Now to move it to the next VAS work center, you have to select it and click on the complete process. There is another option to move, create a task between the VAS work center via this. So now you can see that because I've introduced the second VAS step in the POSC while we were processing, system has determined it. Now there are two tasks which are getting created. One is B, which should have been the main task ideally, that for this step, this is the source because it was earlier here, and then move it to the next VAS work center. But I have introduced LOSC step as well. So what system has done? System has created one task from the initial or the current VAS work center to the trolley, and then from trolley over to this one. So we will see. So now we will process this task. So rather than in the interest of time, I'm just processing it here. So system has replaced the value of, initially it was this one. System has replaced the value with the trolley bin. Now this one is active. So we have already seen couple of time how can we process it on the warehouse task on the RFUI, so we will just process it here. Now the HU is moved over to the VAS work center 2. The transaction code is still same, but we have to come out of this screen because we have logged into the VAS work center 1. So now we will log into the VAS work center 2, and when you are processing if this is your last one, then make sure you update this status value as C also closed. Otherwise you will notice that you will, once you close the warehouse or VAS orders and you have not even closed the HU step, system will show you a message that there is no VAS active VAS order, and it will bring you out on the screen. So you can try that and you will notice the difference if you don't mark C over there. So again we are saying that we have done the activity for the value added service. So physically, systematically, we're just saying start and end, but physically we are doing some activity like printing label, putting on the box, or putting on the products, repacking them, whatever is needed. Repacking we can do it at deconsolidation also, but doing them, wrapping them further in bubble wrap, shrink wrap, whatever. So once it is done, the status is turned into C. The next step would be to select it and close the HU. So once this is done, we can go switch to the other screen again, and you can just check. So now I should be getting the final, so now it should be routing to the decon station. So there is a separate video which I've already posted on the decon station. So okay, it has skipped the decon. So because I'm using the rule based decon functionality, and there is just one put away task. So if the threshold is 3, if it would be more than 3, then it will only route to decon. But now let's look at the configuration needed for USC for decon. So the step is IB02, and you can see we are saying it doesn't matter wherever it comes from, determine the destination from rule based checkbox. Now once we mark this, then you have to come back to the configuration where we have done the setup. Go to good receipt, go to decon, go to specify deconsolidation setup. Now here you will determine, so you look at this screen, it is similar to the POSC screen. You are saying if this is your warehouse, this is your source storage type, and this is the HU type. So HU type group is mandatory. That is why you can see it is never blank. This is the destination activity area. So based on your source and destination and HU type group, you can determine a different deconsolidation. So for this one, I'm saying it is this one, and for this combination, it is this one. So now in our case, system has skipped it because this is the node where we set up a threshold. The put away task associated with your HU has to be greater than whatever value or equal to whatever value we will maintain in max D. It is 3, and in our case it was just 1, so that is why we could not see the IB02 step. But I've spoken, I mean, in terms of source and destination POS, it is the same logic, you know. So once you understand it, I mean, it takes quite a bit of practice to do the right setup. I will recommend that you should create all the relevant pins beforehand. Make sure you go, capture it in a spreadsheet, and then you transfer the data into the system. And take your time to set it up, because if you'll do it in quite a hurry, you will certainly land up in the error. Now, the VAS setup, uh, uh, there is a separate video which I've already posted. You can check that to understand the VAS setup. So that's pretty much it. Thank you. Okay, sorry, before that I must show important part which I missed out. So this is the node where you can determine the WPT, and this is the node where in the WPT you will maintain the POSC value. Now I will refer to the standard one. So like I said, the WPT which you where in which you have to maintain the POSC is the one which is determined in your inbound delivery. That's the thumb rule. So this is the one which will be utilized, and for the IB03 step you can see that the WPT is the one which is in your delivery, right? Now there is no IB03 which is done in POSC step. There is no source destination maintained. So because the destination will be determined from the putaway strategy. So there is no rule based checkbox or anything like that. So that's pretty much about it. Thank you.